everyone. Welcome to topic 2, changing behavior. So this is kind of a key topic this for the rest of the semester because we're going to be talking about things that cause us to have unhealthy lifestyles or choices that lead to unhealthy lifestyles. So if we can recognize what those are and change behaviors, then we're going to be doing great. So this is really kind of an important topic that leads into some of the behavior changes that we all need to make. I mean, geez, I'm almost 50 and I still need to change my behaviors. So let's go through a few things. And once again, this is the beginning of the semester, so we're going to talk more about some of the causes of death and causes of disease in more detail as we go through this semester. But the bullet points that you see here are kind of a foreshadowing or the main takeaway points of the entire semester. So here they are. So you get these down and understand how to change behaviors and maybe make these some of the better practices in your lives. Then you're going to be way ahead of the game, and especially the younger you are, the better choices you can make now set you up with the good habits that lead later on. So, like I said, we're going to talk about more of the causes of death and disease as we go through this semester. But know that it kind of goes along these bullets. Some of it's behavioral choices, and some of you're born with heredity. Some of it's just your options to choose the right health care if you do get sick. Without good health care, we tend to stay sick longer. So good health care. But all of those things we'll be talking a little bit in detail as we go through this semester. Okay, so just real quick, some ways to improve your health, especially in your times. We deal a lot with peer pressure and stresses that we sometimes bring upon ourselves, and we certainly stress is added to us. I recognize that Seneca and I both probably cause you some stress with the course, the way we set it up. Realizing that we're trying to help you learn, and in a lot of ways, stress is a good thing. We're going to talk more about stress later on in the semester, and it can be a good thing. It depends on how we deal with it. So the additional tips here: controlling that, putting yourself in a situation where you're more likely to be able to control it, like being around good friends or being around your family who really care about you and want you to make the right decisions. Being a careful decision maker, not rushing into things. All of these things, self-care, taking care of your body, being kind to yourself and others. All of these things will promote better health. So we'll talk more about this as well, but I want you to see it so that you can understand as we get further into this topic, and you need to make better choices, and there's some things in your life that you want to kind of fix, better, make better habits. And you'll know why, and you'll know some of the additional tips that you can use to put yourself in a situation where you can be successful in changing some behaviors, because we all need to do it. So changing behaviors, first of all, you need to kind of analyze just a little bit about what you're doing that you want to change. So first of all, you have to recognize exactly what you want to change. Sometimes it's pretty simple, hey, I want to lose weight, or I want to get into better shape, or I want to do better in school, or whatever it may be. Some of them are fairly simple. But the components of analyzing that problem are here. So you want to see your frequency. How often are you doing something? Let's say it's something that you don't really like about yourself, or something that is doing harm to your body, like drinking too many sodas. So how often do you drink those sodas? How long have you been doing that? Has it just been the last few weeks since the semester started? Has it been, whatever, the duration? How serious is your problem? What was the basis of it? Why do you do that behavior? Is it kind of a stress reliever, which, guys, oftentimes it is just a stress reliever. And were there any pre-existing components to cause you to do that? Was it demonstrated to you by your parents or an aunt and uncle or your friends? They drank soda, so you're like, wow, that helps them, caffeine helps them, maybe it'll help me. Obviously, soda is one of the, kind of the less impactful things. I mean, this could be anything. It could be smoking, drinking, drugs. It could be overeating, undereating. So anything that's a behavior that might be causing you to have some problems with your health, look at these components: the frequency, duration, seriousness. What's the basis of it? And antecedents is what causes it. Was there anything that you're doing that may cause it? Who you're around, whatever. So we need to prepare ourselves for change. And so understanding that there's, you kind of have an idea of how long you're doing it and the seriousness of it. And then you need to look at some of the factors that may contribute to it: predisposing factors, enabling factors, and reinforcing factors. So look over those bullets, and it's pretty well explained just kind of right there. There may be things that you've been doing in your family and your society, have been doing for a very, very long time, that may not be healthy. And so you might need to change it. And recognizing where that's coming from, it's called an antecedent, where that's coming from, is really, really key in helping you to change that behavior. So look through those behavior pattern reasonings right there, and kind of make sure that you understand what each one of those are, and it'll help you to make those changes. And we'll get to how those changes are made here right now. So make sure that if you're going to make the change, that it's realistic, right? So whatever that may be, and realizing that the change is important, but don't the change time frame is usually where we really mess up on. So number one, identify what you want to change, and then two, you need to develop some sort of behavior to change. So anytime you want to make a change in habit, you have to change that behavior to something else. It just doesn't. You just can't say, "All right, I'm going to quit smoking," and then that's it. Well, you got to fill that time up with something else, especially in that process of change. You need to preoccupy your mind with something else, something positive, some sort of positive reinforcement that allows you to see the difference between the habit you had and the habit you're trying to develop. So these bullets really help you with that. What's your goal? What's your highest priority? What was really important to you? And that's key. It's got to be important to you. It can't be something else somebody wants you to change. It's got to be what you want. So what are the positive outcomes if you do make the change? There's programs out there that'll help you to do that, and who's out there that can help you. So let's talk a little bit about SMART goals, and you can apply what you see on this slide and the habit you want to change, and you can apply it to the acronym SMART, and it will help you to accomplish that change. So here's the SMART goals. I've seen these letters represent lots of different words, but for the most part, this is what we want you to know. They seem the best acronym for the job. You can use it any way you want. Honestly, a goal is a goal, but by using the SMART acronym, you make sure that the goal is something that you're going to be able to stick to and eventually accomplish. So as you can see there, the S is specific, M is measurable, A is achievable, R is realistic, and T is timely. You can add another S on there and make it self, which means you're the one that it's self-driven. You're the one that did it. So, but here's SMART. So I would recommend that you look over this and make sure that you understand it. Use some examples in your own life, like I want to be in better shape, and then use that goal and develop it with the SMART acronym. We're going to ask you to do that a couple of times this semester because it's really important that you understand how to use this acronym to get your goals specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So make sure that it is specific. If you want to get in better shape, you can't just say, I'm just going to get in better shape. Well, what is it? I want to lose so much weight. I want to be able to run so far in a certain time. That's specific. And make sure that you can measure it. Weight is measurable. Distance is measurable. Time is measurable. So make sure that your goal is represented by some sort of measurement that you can see your progression. And make sure it's achievable. If you say I want to run a 4-minute mile, and honestly, not many people can do that. So make sure that it's achievable and that it fits your potential and that it's realistic. Those kind of go together. Is it in your power to accomplishment? Do you have the physical ability to do it? And is it realistic? And then when exactly do you want to finish it? And that's super important. You have to have a timeline with goals. And if your goal is huge, like you want to lose 100 pounds, know that you're not going to lose it all in 1 month. So what are your short-term goals, which can also fit under the SMART category, that lead to that long-term goal? So that helps your goals stay timely. I'm going to lose a pound and a half a week and keep doing that until I lose the weight that I want. That's timely. So it's measurable and timely. So those are SMART goals. We'll go over this over and over again in the semester, but make sure that you kind of have that foundation of what this is, that you can actually write a goal like this. It's going to be one of your assignments so that you can use the SMART goal. I know I spent a lot of time on just this slide, but I want you to really understand it. So changing your behavior is going to have a positive and or a negative consequence. So let's say you want to quit smoking, but all your friends smoke. Well, the positive things is that you're going to have better physical health. The negative side, maybe you might have to change friends. So there's decisions that you have to make with all of behavior changes. So know that you have alternatives. Know where your values are. What's more important to you, your health or those friends at that time in your life. And make sure that those values are strong enough that you can stick to that. You stick to those beliefs or that goal, even when the pressure is on, when the stress levels come up. So that's super important. So there's a few changing behavior strategies that I want you to look at here, and we're going to go over these in detail. So know what they are, but here comes the next 5 slides or so, and we're going to talk about them. So shaping, you're going to need to understand that all of this takes time, right? You can't just change a habit overnight. So know that you're going to start slow and kind of build success as you go. And what you're trying to do is avoid that early stress, because what the stress leads to is a thing we call self-medicating. And self-medicating is when you're under stress, and so to make yourself feel better, you do something. And typically what we do is things that are bad for us. So we overeat. We start to consume lots of sugar because that makes us happy, or caffeine because it makes us happy. And heaven forbid you do something like, start, doing drugs or drinking alcohol or, abusing your body in some way. That's tough. But it's all part of this self-medication that we do to make ourselves feel better, at least in the short term. A lot of those things that I just mentioned are short term. We get a kind of a happy feeling, and then what did I just do? I ate too much cake or whatever. So understand that change takes time. You want to avoid the stress of the change, so keep it slow, keep it in little steps that you can manage. Be flexible. Know that things are going to happen in your life where the goal may have to change just a little bit. So be flexible and don't skip any steps. If you've set timelines for yourself and little markers, make sure that you hit those. Don't try to change things up or try to skip steps to get ahead. You want these habits to be changed, and so change takes time. And of course, reward yourself. We'll talk a little bit more about rewards here in a second. So you can use some techniques. One's called visualization, and once again, the techniques take time. So these behavior change strategies also take time. So to become good at visualization, which has been shown in the science and the research that really works. If you can imagine yourself not smoking and picture yourself in certain situations where smoking may be a problem, that you can overcome that by just thinking ahead of what you were going to do, visualizing yourself overcoming that problem, that temptation to smoke or whatever habit that you're trying to overcome. And then, of course, you can use other people's example. You can model. So if you know somebody who's already quit smoking or quit drinking or not drinking as many sodas, follow their example and how they did it, as long as the way they did it is healthy. I mean, obviously, if what they did was really bad for them, then don't do that. But if it's a good strategy to overcome a habit, then use that. That's called modeling. Positive reinforcement is super important. If you look at the literature, it's always about positive, and that's the key word. So you can reinforce, but it has to be positive. Don't be negative. As a matter of fact, I think the video that we have you watch on changing habits talks about that a lot. So honestly, in research, the most for most people, and especially in your age group, money is the most tangible reward, and it's the most one that promotes the most change. So we often thought that, hey, we should give money out for letter grades, and everybody who got an A got $100. I bet we'd have more people striving to get A's. That's kind of the way the research points to it, but that's not going to happen. But maybe we'll give you 10 cents. And you wouldn't do it. So the reward has to kind of match the difficulty of changing that behavior. So, I really like the last one on this bullet, social reinforcements. I think that's more important than we imagine. I think even more than just saying, hey, good job, but a pat on the shoulder or like a thumbs up, those are all like physical demonstrations of it, are really, really, really important. So if you know somebody who's trying to make changes, make sure that you give them some social reinforcement. If you know them well enough and, we don't have the social distancing, why don't you give them a hug or a pat on the shoulder and say, hey, good job. So here's some other behavior modification or change strategies we can use. There's this thing called self-talk, and you basically just, and there's some theories behind this. The rational emotive, you can see Mitchenbaum's here, and the block stopping is really important too. So anytime you have like a negative thought coming into your head, you want to stop that. And just remind yourself of the positive thing that's going to happen if you can make the change. And so your body is so used to that certain habit that it's going to try to convince you that it's not going to work. So you have to use some of these strategies, telling yourself that you can do this, and always positive. Remember that it's always got to be positive. Every one of these bullets and every one of these theories and methods, you can see positive. Making sure that everything you do is in that direction. Don't use negative thought. It doesn't work. You can't beat yourself up with change. You can't do it. It has to be positive. So understand that when you change your behavior, that there is going to be a positive and a negative consequence to that change. And sometimes, and the positive always has to outweigh the negative. So you have to, in the beginning of the change process, determine that positive is going to outweigh the negative, and so then you'll do it. Know that you can split it. You can divide this into two parts, and know that there are some antecedents, things that lead you to doing this. This is why people who are trying to quit smoking don't go around people who are smoking, or somebody who's trying to quit drinking doesn't go to a bar where there's people drinking. Understand there are always triggers that are going to cause you to do a certain behavior. So stay away from those triggers as much as you can, especially when the consequences of being around that kind of stuff are more severe, like smoking and drinking. Obviously, those have greater health ramifications in your life than I would say maybe caffeine, which we'll talk about in this class, by the way. And understand that the consequences as a result of the behavior will affect whether or not you repeat that behavior. So the more often that you can choose not to do something and change that habit, then the better your chances of changing that habit. It's basically that simple. So we're going to talk about changing behavior throughout the semester. Every time we bring up something that some healthy thing that we're trying to do, whether it's nutrition or cardiovascular disease or heart disease or cancer or stresses or whatever it may be, we're going to ask you guys to consider that and some of the behavior changes that you can make. You're not alone. This isn't pointing fingers at you. I need to make changes. My 77-year-old dad needs to make changes. We all need to make changes at whatever age. And so we're hoping to give you kind of the tools to be able to do that and know that it's possible and that we can all live better, healthier lifestyles. Okay, so that's this topic. And if you have any questions, once again, get a hold of Seneca and I, depending on who your instructor is for this course on this semester. And good luck and make some good positive changes.